So welcome guys to the Cuban show. Today we got an interview with Dr. Frank J. Douglas J. Frank. So he's a world-renowned physicist, if I'm right, and he got more than over like 60 scientific publications, right?
Correcto.
Okay, so without further, I'll let you talk a little bit about your background and just tell people who you are, and yeah, we can go.
I'm a scientist. I'm a physicist. I'm been doing that aggressively for about 40 years. I left academics in 1996 and went into business for myself. And about 2017, I quit doing that. And it's a good thing because it freed me up to do this.
Yeah.
But I've also been a part-time teacher over that period of time at a special school here in Cincinnati for exceptionally gifted youngsters. So I miss doing that. I had to put that on hold. But since about December of 2020, I've done nothing but travel the country, meeting with local grassroots teams, teaching them how to find fraud in their communities and what to do about it once they find it. Mr. Lindell discovered me in March of 2021 and made a movie about me called Scientific Proof. It's a documentary, a 1-hour documentary. And as soon as that happened, then about 10 million people knew who I was in the United States. And it's been basically nonstop ever since. I've been traveling the country pretty steady. I'm about to leave for about 3 weeks straight here. So I'm glad I could squeeze you in today.
Thank you for the chance, because this means a lot for the Cuban community here in Kentucky, especially since we know like there has been like some, I won't call those fraud on the election, because you know the algorithm is gonna like block us, but I would say like you found some several like issues on the voting machines, especially here in Kentucky. I know you came earlier to Kentucky and you speak to the people from Bone County, if I'm right.
Yes, I've multiple counties. I've been about 5 different counties in Kentucky now already, and it's been you have a senator there, Senator Adrian Southworth,
yep,
who's a remarkable legislator. I've worked with many legislatures across the country, and she's one of the finest. So she's hosted me a couple of times. There's a super mom, I like to call them, down in Southern Kentucky, named Ellen Aldridge, and she's hosted several events. And then also Danny Whitaker, before he passed away, he hosted me in Northern Kentucky. So I've been there 5 or 6 times easy at various events. In fact, I was just there yesterday at the Freedom Fest over there in Pikesville. One of the speakers there. So since I'm close to Kentucky, whenever I'm in town, if there's an event, people tend to invite me. So I'm happy to do that.
One day I'll take you here in one of those Cuban community rallies, because
I would love to do that. I don't charge for that, so you just got to cover my expenses. So if I have to stay overnight, you got to cover my hotel, but I don't charge for visits like that.
Okay, perfect. We got your back. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So that, all what you said before, it takes me to the first question. How and why you became a seeker of the truth around the 2020 elections?
Well, after 2020, November of 2020, after the election, I had been modeling during 2020 COVID all across the country. I was posting my models for COVID for every single county in the country. And so politicians knew me and they were contacting me all the time. And after 2020, after the election, a politician from Pennsylvania, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, Kathy Barnett, she just ran for Senate and lost. At least they say she lost. She invited me to look at her election. And so I did in December of 2020, and very quickly found all kinds of anomalies. And so she introduced me to the Election Integrity Committee of Pennsylvania legislature. And after I began working with them, they gave me access to all sorts of logs and data. And within a couple of weeks, we had exposed the whole shebang there in Pennsylvania, tons of fraud. And we showed it to the Pennsylvania state legislature. And this is what people don't know because it's not covered in the media. But when it wasn't just me, there was a team of about half a dozen of us. When we showed them the evidence, they agreed. They agreed that there was massive fraud in their state and that it had taken place through their voter rolls. So the state of Pennsylvania, the legislature, threw out their complete voter rolls and hired a firm to rebuild their voter rolls. And 3 days after that, this happened on December 21st of 2020. And 3 days after that, Zuckerberg bought that firm. So that was my first big lesson, that our legislatures don't want to fix this problem. They just want to kind of cover it up. And so that was a pretty devastating blow to me. I was pretty upset about it. And then, so we continued pressing them. And by the way, let's make a point of that. Notice that the Pennsylvania state legislature is a majority Republican, but nevertheless, they were trying to cover it up. And you're in Kentucky, and there is tons of fraud in Kentucky, and they're majority Republican. So this is not a Republican versus Democrat issue. This is a we the people, we the citizens versus the legislatures who are in control. That's what the issue's about. And, you know, there's a rule, and if you're from Cuba, then you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
You never give the government power. If you ever give the government power, they never give it back. Not even for 3 weeks to fight to flatten the curve. Never give the government power. And that's what's happened, is our elections now are being controlled by our legislatures, and just a few people in our legislatures. And so now that they are in control, they're not going to give it back to us without a fight. And I don't necessarily mean, physical fight. It could come to that. I hope not. What I'm doing is going around teaching people how to expose what's going on, so that at the community level, they can take over their own elections again, take back their elections. Because right now, the governments are manipulating all the elections.
Well, actually, speaking about Cuba, the thing is, like, that's why I'm trying to warn to every American citizen fellow, because the thing is, like, I've been telling them, like, guys, there's nothing good coming from government. Trust me. Only if they take in power, they're only going to control you. That's it, period.
That's correct.
I saw that movie already. I'm from Cuba. And that's actually why me and other, like, millions of Cubans, we are Cuba. You know, like,
yes,
the Cuban government, like when Castro took in power in 1959, he told people, like, elections for what? We don't need elections, you know? And that was when people say, like, okay, that's fine. I mean, this is the guy who's going to take us to the good place, you know?
Yeah, right. Give us everything we want. Yes.
So check what happened, like, 64 years later. We're still trying to get rid of that tyranny.
Exactly.
Have you mentioned before, you came to Kentucky and you discovered a lot of stuff in Kentucky?
Yes.
So that takes me to my next question. What exactly you discover in Kentucky?
Okay. The first easy thing for people to understand, fácil, interesting thing, is that the rolls in your state, the voter rolls, have more people in them than you have voting age people.
Okay.
Very simple. We don't even have to argue about it, because Judicial Watch sued your state back in 2018 and won the suit, because it was proven in court that you illegally had way too many people in your rolls. So then the state removed hundreds of thousands of people from your rolls.
Wow, that makes it different.
But then 6 months later, the ACLU sued, and your state put them all back in again, and even more. And I've shown that graph multiple times, where you can see the graph is climbing, and then boom, several 100,000 are taken out, and then 6 months later, boom, it's back. But it's higher than it was even before, if you just follow the trend. So in other words, right now, today, in your rolls, you have more people in your voter rolls than you have people of voting age. So that's the first simple, easy thing to understand, and you can't argue about it because it's right there. The facts are right there. And we also know that you have people in your rolls that are illegally in your rolls. Federal law has required you to remove them, but you haven't as a state. So that's the first very simple thing to explain to people. And you're one of
100,000 people.
Yes, and you're one of 8 states in that situation. So it's not just you, because that's the way they're stealing our elections all across the country. They have filled the rolls with a bunch of people who are not real voters. And so if you have a bunch of names in the rolls who are not real voters, and you know who those names are, then you can put in ballots for those people and you can control the outcome. So that's the first big thing and simple thing to explain. And we don't even have to argue about it because it's already been found to be true in your own courts. And so it's not, so a lot of times people will say, well, Dr. Frank, his numbers are all wrong. I'm sorry, these are your numbers, not my numbers. And your numbers for your state show you have more people in your rolls than you have people available to be in your rolls. Now, there's a couple of things. It doesn't just give you names that ballots can be stuffed for. It also disguises the fact that they're stuffing ballots. Let me illustrate what I mean. Let's say you only have 60% of your population registered and all 60% of them vote. You would say that's probably not right. Something's wrong with that. But if you have more people in the rolls than are real voters and you put in ballots for all those, then it disguises the fact that you've got a high turnout, irrationally high turnout. So that's the next thing I do. I go in county by county and I show people how to find those people that are not real voters, but yet you've received and counted a ballot from them. And once you do, some of them are dead. Some of them have moved to other states and are voting in other states, but yet you're getting ballots from them somehow mysteriously here. And so I show them how to do that. And that requires some door knocking. And when you do that door knocking, it's really an important task because, for example, in the Cuban community, you should check and see, are people stealing your votes? Yeah. I talk to people all the time from various communities around the country. It's not just Hispanic or that kind of community. It's all communities. And when they discover that their votes are being stolen, they're very angry about it. Yeah. And but I always encourage people to start in their own community first, start in their own neighborhood first, start with their own friends. Just check, and you'll be shocked. There are a lot of people who will tell me, I went to the polls to vote, and they told me that I had already voted. And guess what? That just means somebody stole their vote. Somebody saw that they hadn't yet voted and put in a ballot for them in advance. That's why we have to take away all these weeks of voting that lead up to the election and all these weeks of counting afterwards. We need a single day election. Everybody needs to show up in person, have a photo ID. We need to hand count the ballots at the end of the day. And by the way, all of Europe does it that way. Well, there's no reason we can't either. Okay. So anyway, that's kind of where I go. And what I do is I try to teach people how to do that, how to find those phantom voters, we call them. They're not real voters.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of funny because my son just got here in the States. I got here like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
He's a citizen because I'm a citizen too. So
welcome to America. I love you, brother.
Thank you, sir. It's a really, really nice pleasure to be an American citizen.
I'm glad to have you.
My son just turned like 18 years old, like I'll say like a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. Obviously, I went to register him on the elections. And it's kind of funny when you look for his name, he doesn't show like he's registered. So I'm going tomorrow to the obviously to the county clerk to make sure like, hey, what's going on with my son? Because I registered him like a week ago, as soon as he turned 18. So yes. He's a citizen, he's 18, and he has been in Kentucky for more than 28 days. Which is the
yes.
the federal law to the
yes.
elections.
Yes.
So I'm going to fix that because obviously I don't want my sons both get stole, you know, and
Yes.
the first time he gonna vote in his life. So imagine that. I don't want no one to spoil that. So let's see what happens tomorrow, and I'll let you know later.
Yes.
So you say we need to, after we discover all the evidence about the
Yeah.
and everything, you say we need to go to the courts, but you know there's a whole thing. How you think we can fix that in the courts, just in case they don't want to like, how you mentioned before, they don't want to take the case because that happens a lot.
You are correct. So here's the thing. A lot of people like will look at the rolls and find all sorts of errors in the rolls. And then they go to the clerk and they say, see, look at all this fraud. And the clerk says, that's not fraud, go away. And the people go to courts and they say, look at all the errors in the rolls. And the judge says, that's not fraud, go away. That's why the canvassing is super important. You need to find actual cases of fraud. And when you have, I encourage my the communities to get 100 cases of fraud. These are proven cases of fraud. People will sign an affidavit. I swear I did not vote, yet a ballot is recorded for them. Here's a person who's dead, yet there's a ballot for them. Here's a person who lives in another state, who's voting in another state, yet there's somebody voting for them here in the ballot. So you find 100 cases of actual fraud. Now, if you actually have real fraud like that, like I just described, you can go to the local sheriff and you can say, Sheriff, this is fraud happening in my county. This is probable cause for you to launch an investigation. So our sheriffs turn out to be a very powerful avenue to go because the sheriff is a sworn protector of the people. The sheriff is supposed to say, hey, somebody's stealing your votes. I'm going to protect you. Now, in Kentucky, Adams, your Secretary of State, is going to say, it's going to tell the sheriffs not to investigate. But I think the sheriffs should investigate because they are constitutionally obligated to protect their citizens. Now, if your sheriff won't protect you, then your citizens need to rise up and say, then we're not going to elect you next time either. And we're going to impeach you now because you're sworn to protect our constitutional sacred right to vote. And right now we're being disenfranchised from it. So that's one strategy. Another strategy then is once you have those 100, if the sheriff will help you, great. If he doesn't help you, then I told you what to do. But if your sheriff will help you, the sheriff can actually go to the court and actually the sheriff has legal authority. And the sheriff can say, hey, I have discovered that there is this fraud in our elections and we have investigated it and confirmed that these citizens are not just a bunch of whack jobs. This is real. Okay, and we know how the fraud is happening. It's happening because the state is manipulating our rolls. So we're going to disconnect from the state rolls during the election. We're going to control it ourselves. We're going to control it locally. And we're going to disconnect from the state electronic systems and the voting systems that are all electronic, that are making this able to be happening. So we're going to disconnect from all those machines and we're going to run our own election locally. And you can supervise it all you want. Everything will be transparent. We're not hiding anything. Everything will be, following the law. There'll be Republicans and Democrats and independents. Everybody will be supervising the whole process, but it'll be by the book and it'll be correct because we will be supervising everything because we know as soon as we go online, as soon as we connect our electronic machines, then the bad guys will be able to affect our election, and we don't want them to. So we're going to protect ourselves. So that's the way that goes. Now, in some counties, we've been trying to get injunctions filed, they're called, where the judge can order a temporary injunction to pull away from the machines. In counties where we can't get that, we try to get the local people to just rise up with their clerks and say, hey, we want to run our own election. We don't want you. And so sometimes the clerks will make the stand. It depends on the state law. State by state, it's different. In your state, in Kentucky, if I remember correctly, I have been in 45 states, so I don't always remember correctly. But in your state, I think each county runs their own election. So I think you have the ability to decide how to run your own election locally. So anyway, in the end, it ends up being the citizens decide The citizens have the power in the end. They just forgot they had the power. So the citizens need to then demand that they want to control their elections. But that's where it's going. And so people are all worried about November 8th. Yes, it makes sense to try to protect before November 8th. But let's say you can't. That doesn't mean you should stop working. You should go out and canvass and find the fraud in that election, and you can overturn that election, because there's no statute of limitations on fraud, first of all. And second of all, according to Supreme Court precedent, whenever fraud is proven, everything before that fraud is vitiated, is the term. Everything can be undone. So you can prove fraud after the election too. And so you just have to prove sufficient fraud for probable cause.
Okay, that's good to know, because I've been talking to my Cuban fellows, and they got the same questions like me. Actually, this question is from one of them, like, hey, Vlad, what happens if they find, like, okay, this was like a fraudulent election? What about with that candidate? Because I'll say in the case of Rhonda Palazzo, we got here in Kentucky, she lost for like 58 votes, so I'm assuming that it's not hard to prove that 58 votes were wrong.
And if you can prove 100 were fraudulent, you've got probable cause to redo the election.
There we go. So I hope we go in that direction, because
yes,
it's really important to us, some people, like in the States these days, oh no, because we need like Republicans and we need Democrats and we need, it's not about that, guys. For me, it's about the Constitution. I don't care if probably is a person who I don't like, or I don't 100% agree with their ideas. But if they do the right thing, they have the right to do it. I don't care if there is a person that I really like, could be even my own, relative or whoever, friend. If they did it the wrong way, it's wrong. It's wrong. And that's why I'm so mad about what's happening here, because things look like a bananera republic, So I don't want that in this country happening. I came over here.
You've already been through that before. You don't want to do that again.
And that's the thing. I just got my son here. I want my grandkids, if I have any someday, I want them to live in a country that every single law is respect. So, and that's why I'm trying to, some people, they don't understand me, like, man, but you need to let those things go, and I'm like, no, guys, what? Because at the end of the day, we are paying for that. When you go to the gas station, we're paying for a fraudulent election.
Yes, you are.
When you go through the grocery market, you're paying for a fraudulent election, so that's not a thing like you can just let go,
Yes, and you're in your education, in world peace, in all those things, you're paying for a fraudulent eletion.
That's what's happening right now. We are like nuclear war, like in the 60s.
That's right.
We came back to the Cuban crisis for the So
I especially like talking to people that are immigrants, such as yourself. I was in Massachusetts recently, and they have a Chinese community there that is absolutely on fire, because they've experienced communism before, and they see it happening. And so they're very much, they're like, wake up, America, this is happening to you. And I have German friends from East Germany who are saying, everything that's happening now happened to us in East Germany. And they see everything. So it's like all the people from foreign countries are saying, danger, danger, everybody get going here. We have issues. I mean, you would be saying peligro, but but that's, so I'm very excited to work with your community. If you want any help, I'll be happy to come down and work with you guys.
Thank you, sir. We really appreciate it, because sometimes, this is like a internal fight that I have with myself, and like, guys, I'm the only person seeing this, and I got a lot of friends who see this stuff. Some of them are more, like interested, like me, but some of them are just like, living the life. That's fine. I really believe on the liberty of, choice. And but at some point, we're gonna all of us, we're gonna end paying for this, you know.
Yes.
So maybe if you take like small action, you can make the difference. Because I mean, when I tell people like, guys, we are Cubans, we came to United States. What about if Franklin, Washington, all of those people never did nothing to fight against the tyranny they had back in the
Preacher, brother.
you know, what about if those people were like you, like, I don't care about them. We're just gonna live our life. We probably won't be here today, you know.
You are exactly correct. And I can tell you, I've been around the country, right? I've been in 45 states now. And I can tell you, I've been working with local grassroots teams that the way we fix this problem is not from the top down. I've already met with legislators and secretaries of states and attorneys generals. I already met with them. The way we're fixing this problem and what is working around the country is when individual citizens, such as yourself, thank you for standing up, when citizens, I can tell you, there's one mother in the state of Washington that's changing Washington. There are two mothers in the state of Nebraska that are changing Nebraska. There are three mothers in the state of Pennsylvania that are changing Pennsylvania. There's two mothers in Texas that are changing Texas. And there's one mother in Texas and maybe now one Cuban in Kentucky that's changing Kentucky. It only takes a couple of people to stand up. And one of my favorite super moms, her name is Tony Shoup in Pennsylvania. She says, education is key, but the fix is local. So here you and I are educating, but the fix is local. You start in your own community, fix your community. And then once we fix yours, then it percolates up to the bigger community.
That's actually why I'm starting this show, the Cuban show, because I'm my profession. I'm a director of photography. I'm a camera guy. I'm a filmmaker, you know. So, but I never worked in front of the camera. But because the things that's happening right now,
yes.
People like, I see my Cuban community here sometimes. They are a little bit disconnected from the reality in the States. You know,
yes.
I'm going to bring to them like, guys, we need to wake up. This is happening in our, you know, in our houses. And we are paying for this. So we need to make attention, like a simple thing like tomorrow, I'm going to the county clerk to find out what's happening with my son's registration.
Yes.
Like, I did this. He's 18. Why he's not on the
rolls
system? You know? Yes. Oh, we don't know what happened. Okay, let's go and do it now.
Yes.
There's one vote that's safe.
Yes.
You know, probably like you're gonna save someone's election. And if everyone does that, I'll say right now there's like 35 to 40,000 Cubans here in Kentucky. Probably, I'll say like 10. Oh, my bad. I'll be back.
I'm still here, no problem.
Yeah, sorry.
It just says there's 10 minutes left. That's all. Yeah, it's okay.
So the thing is, like, I tell them, what about if like 10,000 Cubans that they are allowed to vote? What about if we fix those 10,000 votes?
Perfect.
Votes is
that is excellent.
In an election, you know.
Yes.
So I'm trying to bring that, and that's why I got your voice here, because now
I'm happy to help
translate everything to them, you know, because some of them doesn't speak English, but I'll try my best. Just to tell you, here's my job. This is what I can do.
Beautiful.
You know, I don't know nothing else. I probably don't know nothing about fighting in a court or nothing like that. But this is how I can help, guys.
Perfecto.
So I'll take my time. I'll take my, you know, my family time to say like, hey, hold on. This matter concerns to you guys too.
Yes.
So let's try to fix this and let's try to, you know, help a little bit. I know some people are afraid, especially Cubans, because sometimes you free the body, but it's really hard to free the mind. You know?
Yes. Yes.
In the Cuban community, that's a frequent issue. Some people, they came over here, but they're still afraid about speaking out. You know?
Yes. Well, because when they spoke out before, they were penalized for that.
And I'm telling people, because sometimes they're like, well, politics is not a good thing to be involved. to, you know, and my life has nothing to do with politics. And I'm like, guys, no, your life is ruled by politics.
Yes.
Your gas, your food, your house, your board,
Yes.
your kids,
Yes.
food, everything is ruled by politics.
Yes. Yes.
So you have to be aware.
Plato says that the penalty for refusing to be involved in politics is you end up being ruled by your inferiors. So if you say, oh, politics is messy, I don't want to get involved, guess what? The people that are getting involved are the messy people, the ones you don't want to be in charge. So guess what? We have to get our shovels out and we have to shovel the manure. We have to get in there and we have to engage. Otherwise, the bad people are going to engage. So you say you had a candidate that didn't get elected. I would love to get a Cuban candidate elected and help you do that and endorse her and help you accomplish that, because you need your own representation.
I was thinking about that. Actually, we had a Cuban guy running for Congress. He was, running against Ronda Palacio too. But unfortunately, Cubans, it's kind of like we are kind of new on this world. So, but he did it pretty well. Actually, I was working with him. The video promotion he got, it was next to me, it was my way to help him. Like, man, I don't have like a ton of money to pay for all the stuff, but I can do this for you for free. That's gonna bring you more votes and more donors. So I say, okay, this is the way I can help, and I help him. It's only trying to fix everything. That's I'm telling people, like,
you do one thing, I do one thing, he does one thing, everybody does one thing. Together, we're strong.
And at the end of the day, someone knows someone that probably knows someone that's gonna bring you whatever you need. And that's my way to act. But obviously, we know sometimes in this country, especially right now, my biggest concern. We know the FBI confiscated one of your phones. A few days ago. That was, obviously all my alarms, pop up. I was like, well, this is exactly how the Cuban dictatorship used the police and the state police to do repression over their citizens. So, can you tell us a little bit more about that, just to show people like, hey, he's a real danger and this stuff happened?
Yes. So the FBI met me as I was getting off an airplane. I travel a lot, and they met me at the airport getting off the airplane, and I had a warrant to seize my phone. And if I didn't cooperate, the warrant said they could detain me and search me and take it from me. So I didn't fight them. The day before, it was a Wednesday, they took mine. The day before, on a Tuesday, they took Mike Lindell's phone, and he was at a Hardee's driving through a drive-through, and they took his phone for the same reason they took mine. It's related to the Tina Peters case in Colorado, Mesa County, Colorado. And by the way, that's a good movie to watch. You can recommend it to people. It's called selectioncode.com. It's a free movie. It's 1 hour long. It's a very good movie. It's not geeky. It's a well-produced movie. Selectioncode.com. And what happened was I met with Tina Peters, and we arranged to have her machines backed up, copied. We did what's called forensic backups of all of her voting machines. And then after we did all those backups, then Dominion, the company that ran her election, came in and reprogrammed all of her machines. And then we did forensic backups again. So we know exactly everything that the company did to the machines. We have forensic backups of that. Well, when the Secretary of State found out, she panicked, because with that evidence, we can prove that the machines were manipulating the elections. So she panicked, and so the Secretary of State of Colorado has been prosecuting Tina Peters, and it got escalated to federal court in Colorado, which gave them federal authority to go around the country seizing all of the evidence related to this case. So they're not accusing me of doing anything illegal or incorrect. They're seizing my phone as evidence in that case. But if you read the media, if you read the New York Times, or you read the Washington Post or CNN, I'm a terrorist. So And so they've been after me.
I am too for Cuban authorities. So.
Yeah, exactly. Anybody who speaks the truth these days is
Oh yeah.
So anyway, that's what it's about. And they haven't given me my phone back. I probably shouldn't use it if they give it back to me anyway. But I did have some pictures and things on there I'd like to recover.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. Okay, well, that was all for now. And it's a really, really nice pleasure that you joined me in this meeting. It means a lot for me.
Me too.
I have a little secret to tell you about it. You are the first interview I'm doing for my show. This, I hope this take me to another level and I can just move.
Yes.
Obviously, you got the doors open in my show whenever you need to speak with the Cuban community. Sure.
You call me anytime. We'll see if we can set it up.
Really close. And if you ever want to join the Cuban community,
yes.
We got really nice food here. We got and salsa, so you can just tell me, hey, Vlad.
I would love to do that. Let me warn you about this podcast. I'm happy to do this with you, but I warn you, if you post this on YouTube, they'll take it down.
I know.
So you use other venues for this one. When you do other interviews with other people, you can probably put those up on YouTube, but not this one.
No, not this one. But this is going to help a lot to the Cuban community, just to have some lights on the darkness we are living these days. So thank you so much, sir.
You're very welcome, sir. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure. Bye.